Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. I am Matt, your storyteller, and we're going to play some Vampire the Masquerade tonight for the first time coming to you on a Tuesday, which should hopefully yield a little bit of better results towards getting a nice audience in. As ever, we are ably stream managed by Steve, who will pop his lovely, lovely face up for just a second to alarm you into thinking that somehow he's going to be involved in this visually in some way. But Steve's just going to be popping some art on screen, shuffling cameras around, talking in chat, that kind of thing, and doing a very good job of it indeed. Thank you, Steve.
Quite all right.
Time for the usual channel promo stuff. So we've got a bunch of social media links. They're all down below. We're Telling Tales RP on most things. We've got a YouTube where we store all our videos on demand. We've got a Patreon, all the stuff that everyone else has, links down below. We've also got ongoing Simba Room series on Wednesday nights. That's tomorrow night now. So come join us on that as well. But that's enough of that. Let's get on with the vampire, all the vampiring. First, let's bring on Justin, who plays Mandrel, our resident Nosferatu architect. How's it going, Justin? I believe last time you had some fresh new missions from one of your elders.
Yeah, no, it's going quite well. We had Cortland come and join us last session, which was very exciting. He left Jazz with us and told us to go and investigate the disappearances of a coterie in Islington. He also said to go and have a chat with Jack to see what we can kind of gain from a relationship with Jack the Nosferatu. And he said we should probably get about securing Mayfair from prying eyes.
Very dangerous times in London. The Second Inquisition effectively rules the place. And then I believe you went off and did some internet research on the department store, this coterie called their home.
Yeah, we then, me and Oscar, Mandrel Oscar, went off to investigate at an internet cafe, just see what we could find. And although I didn't come up very much, Oscar found some fantastic blueprints of the sewers, which indicated that they had been blocked off by someone who looked like they knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. And while you were doing some of this, some research on your own, Oscar snuck off to make a phone call of his own. Let's bring Pierre on, Oscar's player, to talk about that phone call and what's going on.
Oh man! After that lovely bonding moment with Mandrel, I snuck off to one of these newfangled telephone boxes that they've got strewn around London, and I called a number that I'd been given not very long ago, and it was Aish, who's another Tremere. In fact, potentially the only person I know at the moment, who, aside from my sire, who decided to leave. Who is a Tremere and can teach me about who I am. So yeah, I arranged to meet with her, or rather she arranged to meet with me in a short while and maybe teach me something, which I'm pretty excited about. So yeah.
Absolutely, the Tremere, upstanding, non-manipulative members of Vampire Society.
Yeah, we're all about knowledge. We're all about increasing
knowledge and nothing else.
Nothing else.
So, as Justin mentioned, another of the missions was to go talk to Jack, the wily local Nosferatu who you've bumped into before. Let's bring on Neill, who plays Alex, our resident Malkavian prophet of doom. Prophet of all sorts of things, really. Say how that meeting with Jack went.
Alex had a lovely conversation with Jack. He is, as always, a gentleman to a fault, as was Arthur, who accompanied Alex to the conversation. It was wonderful. We asked Jack for more information, and Jack said that he would be delighted to give us that information in exchange for helping him with some unspecified mission, which I'm sure will all be fine at some point in the future. Whilst there, however, we also learned that he had some kind of history with Wynne, our leader and mentor for this expedition, which I am sure will in no way cause any problems down the line.
Why would it? Why would it? And then the rest of last week's session was mainly you going off and actually investigating this department store that previously housed the coterie that has now gone missing. Let's bring on our last player, John, who plays Arthur, our resident Ventru pharmacologist. How's that mission going, John?
It's going fine, I suppose. I mean, it's totally not the mission we expected it to be. We took Jazz Wentworth along with us, just, to give him a bit of exercise, really, no other reason. And upon arriving at the department store, we found one of the coterie members, Ohana, outside ranting and raving about he is coming and other totally normal things to be ranting and raving outside.
Everyone should rejoice and, above all, prepare yourselves.
Yes. So then I mugged a man very loudly and publicly as a distraction, while Jazz and I think it was Oscar sort of gently shifted Ohana off to one side, snapped her out of whatever she was in, where she realized that she had been there for several nights, had very little memory of it, and that the coterie were probably still inside the store, and we have no idea what's happened. And then Jazz kicked the door down.
Yes. Rather unsubtly, it has to be said, and we pick up, of course, exactly where we left off. Jazz has booted open the door to this old abandoned department store and is striding inside as if he owns the place. I believe the setup we've got with your characters, I think Oscar is basically just behind him. Mandrill, a little bit of the way behind that, lurking in the shadows, utilizing Obfuscate, and still across the road, but walking towards where Jazz has entered, is Arthur and Alex, having dealt rather ably with the faux mugging. So let's go with Oscar first. He's the closest. Oscar, what are you doing?
I think after getting over the initial shock of Jazz kicking the door in just immediately, I will wait a second to see if, I don't know, he throws somebody out of the door and then kind of peek into the building and see if I can see where Jazz is, or if he's already marched his way down.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? You don't hear anything for a good few seconds afterwards. So I think it's worth poking. If you're going to check in, it's worth poking your head through the door and having a look. And you know what? It's pretty damn dark in there. So let's have a roll for that, I think. I think it's sensible to have a roll. And it's our good old friend of wits plus awareness. He says, badly needing to bring up a awareness, badly needing to bring up a character sheet. Which
I got one success.
Okay, I think with one success you can roughly detect the layout of the place, but that might be just about it. It's a large kind of a large interior. It looks like it's actually multiple floors, but it looks like most of the two upper floors are kind of open, so they're more like balconies, like very, very wide balconies that have had goods stored on them at some point in the past, but still just balconies with a set of stairs leading up both sides up to the second floor and then up to the third floor. Ahead of you, you can see that all the furnishings and accoutrement of an old, quite fancy department store are still there. Most of the goods have gone, though not all. But it looks like a very dark, very dusty, very old-fashioned department store with actually quite little in the way of decay and kind of things falling apart. You can't see where Jazz is, but you can hear his footsteps, which don't sound hurried or alarmed.
I think, being a bit nervous, I'll try and follow the sound of the footsteps, because I'm actually a bit worried about being left behind.
That's perfectly fair. You can kind of dash in and sort of try and follow where he's gone. While you do that, Mandrill, you are obfuscated in the shadows outside. Are you waiting for Alex and Arthur, or are you going after Oscar and Jazz?
It looks like the situation they're involved in is resolving, doesn't it?
On the other side of the road.
They're not
done.
Yeah,
no, it's
they're not
done.
being
It's
piled
done.
upon
The people who thought
yeah.
they were being mugged are now wandering off with no memory of the situation.
Well, I'm torn. I don't want them to be grabbed by the Inquisition, but equally, Oscar Kane is wandering within. Who knows what he might bump into, or break, or smash, or
he might bump into some awful supernatural creature of the night in there.
Yeah, but I don't think Jazz is going to be that dangerous. He is just awful at being a supernatural creature of the night. But I think, on balance, I would step in after Oscar.
Sure.
And
that's fine.
Follow quietly behind Oscar. I can be completely silent, so my plan is to follow behind Oscar, and he will not even know that I'm there unless he specifically looks at me.
You specifically utilizing it's your first level of obfuscate, that isn't it? Silence of death? Is that what it's
Silence
called?
of death. And I'm still quiet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to you know what? You can give me, if you want, you can give me a wits plus awareness roll to see if you can pick up any more than Oscar has. You can see Oscar ahead of you, who seems to be wandering a bit randomly between all these old department store racks.
Well, I guess the real question is, how badly do we want to see a awareness bestial failure? That's the question. because I have nothing.
I realize when I don't set a difficulty, it means that it's more difficult to get bestial failures and messy criticals and stuff like that. But I'm happy homebrewing it in that way so far. So I'm not setting you a difficulty, but
I just rolled anyway because I'm not going to stop doing awareness rolls because I know I'm crap at it.
Sure, yeah.
But I did get 4 successes with 2 dice.
You're crap at this.
I'm just
double.
That's the best awareness roll I've ever made.
You just rolled 100.
Can I use that as an excuse later to spend experience points on awareness because I want to get my first rank in it?
You absolutely can, given that I don't think there's any rule in the game to tell you when or how to spend experience.
But for role-playing purposes.
Yeah, for role-playing purposes, absolutely. I think that's spot on.
Cool.
4 successes. Well, you see, obviously, the layout that Oscar saw. You can see that Jazz is kind of off in the middle of the store now, walking kind of slowly between the aisles, looking quite carefully around. He seems to be being actually quite cautious after his initial boot through the door. You can see enough of the interior. You are fairly sure that if anyone is here in this large open area, then they are beyond your ability to try and look for them. Because you just quickly pace and look down some. You're fairly sure there's no one in, or at least you don't think anyone's lurking. You also see a large set of doors at the back of the ground floor, presumably leading on to back offices and things of this nature. Let's go to Arthur and Alex outside. At the risk of individually checking whether everyone is walking through a door, I assume that's what you're doing.
Yes, but before that, I will obviously tell Arthur, masterfully done. I believe that was the most successful fake mugging I have ever seen.
Well, thank you. It was my first time.
One could not tell. After you.
Compliment? ? It's worth noting, I didn't say for the others, but you are the last 2 to enter. Ohana is still outside. Oh. So are you interacting with her in any way as you go inside? She's looking a little lost and confused. Let's bring up her art while we just do this little interaction.
I will bring out an arm an arm? Just separately. No, I'll reach out my hand and lay it on Ohana's elbow and say, would you care to come with us after the mild scene?
She was kind of staring off into nowhere, and she kind of comes to as you touch her elbow, and her eyes kind of slowly focus and fix on you, and she says, "Oh, Alex, you're here. Yes. Yes, I think I will. And she's very pliant. Just lets you lead her into the department store.
Then I will. I think I already offered Arthur to go first, so let's just assume I
Sure.
did that
I'll
anyway.
have gone in.
I will likewise followed with not unseen by Silence of Death. Not that it makes a difference because I'm with these two, but
Sure. Rather than have everyone roll awareness, because I don't think we're getting much better than Mandrill anyway. As you guys enter, are you leaving the door open behind you?
Assuming
Oh, that's a good point. I'm not the last through.
you can feel free to. Although you could feel free to like hold the door open whilst I guide Hannah through.
I will probably do that, and I think I will, even though Jazz did it as loud as possible, I will close the doors behind us
Sure.
to at least slightly cover our entry.
Are you kind of shutting them to? Are you kind of doing anything in particular with them?
Can't think of anything particular to do with them.
Sure. No problem. So, as everyone is now in, Oscar, Mandrill, you are well aware that you heard the kind of voices outside, and you're well aware of Alex and Arthur now in the store behind you. So, if you want to interact together, share information, etc., go ahead.
Can anyone see a light anywhere? I'm stumbling around here. Come on, this department store has to have something, right? They were living here, right?
Mandrill, I would say that you have found both a light switch and a bank of like old lamps.
I'm happy to like turn on the lamps in a disembodied way. I like that. I'm not going to reveal myself.
Sure.
I'm just gonna ask for light, and light will appear.
So a rack of old lamps that are still on some shelves, relatively kind of in the middle of the store, kind of roughly the same distance from all of you, just kind of flick on one by one. Is that's allowed with your level of obfuscate?
Well,
is that right? Just flicking some lights on as you go?
It depends how they're set up. If it's just like one light switch that I can kind of...
No, you have to turn them on individually.
That probably would break
I think
it.
it probably does, yeah.
Yeah, in which case I'm not going to do it. I don't care what it's going to... I like
All right, then.
No, we couldn't find anything. No, I keep stumbling into boxes.
It doesn't bother me.
All right, then.
Whilst that's going on, Alex, I would like to turn on heightened senses. Just not expecting to get anything from it yet, but I'm sure eventually.
Sure. So, Oscar, you are aware where Arthur and Alex are near the entrance of the store.
Okay,
So-
I think I'll stumble towards them because I'm feeling a bit lost. And
Okay.
alone and friendless.
Sure.
And loud.
Yeah, that too.
Okay. So, I mean, what are we doing?
I will. Sorry.
I think I saw Jazz go down that way. We should probably... He seems a bit of a loose cannon. Maybe we should try and catch up to him.
An excellent idea, Oscar. And I'll turn to Arthur, kind of expectantly.
How do we even know he's going in the right direction?
Oh, Hannah. Have you been in here before?
Yes, this was our haven briefly. Where are the others?
We were rather hoping that you would be able to tell us that, but if you do not know, perhaps you could direct us where we should look.
Well, I suppose if you don't know where they are, she kind of glances over near the back of the store, and a voice kind of echoes out from that direction, saying, "Warlock, attend me, please." It's entirely up to you. Does Oscar know that's the nickname for the Tremere? That's the question.
I think I have heard possibly not Jazz. I I think I've heard somebody refer to
I think
you
someone has referred to you as
Yeah.
a
I
warlock.
think
So
Aurora referred
Yeah.
to you as a warlock.
Yeah.
potentially, yes.
I'll. Okay. Sure.
The voice is coming, not that you know what's back there, but the voice is coming from by those large doors you saw, Mandrill.
Okay. I will attempt to walk towards the noise without crashing into too many things.
I think that's perfectly fine to do. You're getting used to the dimness in here a bit more now. Are the others of you also going over?
Yeah, I'm probably in that direction.
Sure.
I will lead Ohana slowly, but I'd like to ask her something while she's doing it. But if Arthur's doing anything different,
Sure.
let him go first.
What are you doing, Arthur?
I think I'm probably also begrudgingly making my way towards the back doors.
Sure, that's fine. So
Then
Alex.
I'll ask Ohana, maybe not hanging back, but certainly go slightly slowly. I was curious, Ohana. You said that he was coming. Would this be the sun or some other he?
She kind of blinks a bit at you and says, he?
Oh, it is no matter, Ohana. You were simply, I believe, moonstroke or something akin to that. It is not to worry.
She nods and says, I'm so sorry, Alex. I can't seem to remember anything.
That is quite all right, my dear. If there is anything you do remember, we are all here to help you. And I gesture
She nods and
grandly.
kind of wanders ahead of you slowly. Oscar, you wander over to where Jazz is standing. He has his arms folded and is tapping one very shiny shoe quite fast, impatiently, and says, "This portal, is there anything we should know? Mystical protections?"
I can give it a look.
Give it a look, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have sense the unseen?
I have sensed the unseen.
Yeah. I mean,
but
you
it's
have
up to
no
you.
idea what you're looking for, and
Yep.
looking for things like this would be probably quite difficult, even if you did. But it's not just a discipline for seeing through obfuscate, right? So give it a go.
I will. Yeah. So I have to make I assume either Auspex and it's the same number of dice. So regardless of which one
I have
it
a
is,
cheat sheet now for discipline, so I can
it's
have a
2
double
successes.
look. 2 successes. You really don't know what you're looking for. You're fairly sure that even if you did, it would be difficult. For what it's worth, you can sense nothing.
Yeah, I can't see anything. I don't know. I have a thing which is that I have Bloodhound. I don't know if that actually makes my sense of smell any better. But
it's more to do with your interactions with blood.
Yeah. So okay,
like when you're doing
so if there's any blood around, I can possibly smell it.
There is definitely no blood to be smelled around.
As far as I can tell, nothing weird here. That's what I say to Jazz.
Jazz kind of rolls his eyes slightly and says, "Well, whatever that's worth. Go on then, Arthur. Why don't you go in first?"
Fine. As I have faith in my coterie. Shoot a glance at Oscar. And open the door.
I shrug.
Okay. The doors were quite big and quite heavy, and clearly quite good at preventing light moving through. Because as you open, the corridor behind them has lights on. Regular electric, lights. Old-fashioned sort of fittings, but on. It's got an odd greenish hue because the fittings are, when old-fashioned lights had coloured hangings, and these are green. Justin, you were going to ask me something.
If Arthur is stepping through the doors, I would step through after I think Oscar would be able to see that because he's already seen me with his sense of the unseen. I think that would make sense then if Alex saw that as well, if he has sense of the unseen on. But I would accompany Arthur through the doors.
Sure. Let's say that Oscar is aware that you're moving past him, and Alex is aware that you're around. That seems like a fair compromise there. Arthur, it's a corridor. It's a relatively short one. There's a couple of doors on either side of it. All of them are closed. Nothing looks disturbed. Nothing looks unusual.
I will turn back around to Jazz and say, "See? Nothing to worry about. Have some faith in the fledgling." And push the door open for everyone else.
Jazz says, "Well, the canary's safe then. Go on, the rest of you."
Sure. I walk through.
I will also start to look down the corridor.
Sure. As Hannah walks in, she says, "Oh, yes. Maybe the second door on the right,
This one?
Mr. Norris, is it?"
Yes.
Yes. That has the lower entrance in it.
Ah.
It has what's the term? Panic room.
A good place to start, then.
Is there any defensive measures that you're aware of to prevent people getting into the panic room?
A very good question.
Thick
There's
walls.
a very big door.
Okay. Sure. That's good. I don't mind trying to open a door.
I will open the second door on the right and peer in.
Sure. Inside is a large empty room. Perhaps at some point it was a stock room or something like that. It's got some kind of large shelving along one wall. But other than that, there is nothing to note except a very large, very modern looking, thick metal door on the opposite wall. The frame is metal, and the whole wall has essentially almost been removed to fit this in. It has a like a kind of bank safe spinny wheel thing. When I say modern, it's not all digital and electronic, but it's certainly newer than the department store, which looks to be from the 30s or the 40s, perhaps, when it was originally built.
Interesting. Oh, Hannah, did you lot install this?
No, it was here when we got here. Harika said she thought this might be someone else's haven originally. Harika is one of the names that was also given to you from the country.
Yeah.
Hannah, whilst you were here, did you ever get the sense that you were being watched? Anything more than normal, that is.
She kind of looks down at the ground and around and says, I can't really remember what happened just before. It's very, very difficult. I think we were scared. I was scared. And some of us ran.
Oh, Hannah, if you don't mind me asking, do you normally have memory difficulties, or is this new?
No, I can usually remember things. Give me a wits plus insight roll.
Okay.
Anyone
else
can,
make that?
yeah, if they're like, I don't like everyone doing it, but if people
Sure.
think they'd be analyzing her words, especially,
One
then
success.
go for it. Yeah, it only needs one success. That's the difficulty. So.
I'd also, wow.
Ooh,
That's 4 for Alex. Arthur?
yeah. That's a bestial failure.
Okay, then.
Willpower.
Yes, I'm spending willpower.
Can you spend willpower post roll result?
Yeah. That's when
Yeah,
you do it.
that's
'Cause it's
Oh, of
really
course.
long.
Sorry, I'm
Wrong edition.
regressing to the 90s. Forgive me.
Okay, 1 success.
Okay.
It's fine.
Cool. Oscar and Arthur. She's lying.
Right.
Alex. She is lying through her teeth, and there is some really deep-seated, embedded reason for her not to want people to know that she frequently loses things, memory-wise. Yeah.
Okay. Mandrel, do you have any idea about what the structure of this vault? If there might be any. I mean, I guess we can try it, but I imagine it's locked.
I think Mandrel, if she wants to make a kind of roll on whether is probably the best seated person to make a roll on whether she knows how to get around this kind of door.
I've got knowledge. I've got technology knowledge. I've got engineering knowledge. Which do you think would be
at
a
first glance?
better...
Do you have any larceny?
I do have larceny too.
A
little bit.
Are you kind of taking your time on this and kind of examining the door a bit more?
We don't seem to be in any rush, so let's
think
take
that's
some time.
a resolve plus larceny roll, then, please. And I'm going to say it's quite, it's not an electronically complex door, but it is a mechanically complex one. I'm going to put it at difficulty 3.
That makes sense. Let's just make sure my hunger is up to date. I got 3 successes.
Yeah, it's honestly, as these doors go, it's well out of your price range, but it's pretty cheap. It's modern, but it's not terribly complicated. You're not even sure whether technically it's locked.
Sure.
From the outside,
Sure.
It might literally be worth just trying to open it.
Yeah.
I think then anyone who hasn't already clocked Mandrel, the first thing they would see is Mandrel trying to open the door.
Mm-hmm. Sure. No, Oscar,
Oscar,
Oh,
you
yeah.
you've already
you
aware
can
of
see
the.
I don't know if did I sense a presence or did I actually?
Yeah.
It's
Well, I'm
complex.
Cool as a
It's
cucumber
complex.
then.
It might be some cognitive dissonance going on there.
Yeah,
but it's
blurry
probably not
shape.
surprising.
Alex.
Not that I'm expecting to try and make a roll and get some deep insight in this, but when Alex sees Mandrel appear, can I notice if Jazz is surprised or not?
Jazz isn't in the room.
Oh, did he stay on the outside still?
Mm-hmm. He stood by the large doorway.
Oh man.
Oh.
This whole thing seems like a trap. Okay, well, does the door open?
Well, now, why don't we make a roll for that? Mandrel, you have potence, right?
I'm extremely strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think the technical term is strong.
Do you have any level of potence that you would expect you to help you with this exact kind of task?
If I were to make a rouse check,
a strength plus athletics type of roll.
If I were to make a rouse check, yes, but I'd rather not, and so I probably wouldn't do so unless I felt that my already huge frame could not meet the task.
Absolutely, perfectly acceptable. Well, in that case, make me a strength plus athletics roll, and I am just going to double check something regarding difficulties. Yes, it's at difficulty 6.
I'm getting a. Okay, let's. Do you think that my previous success with the larceny roll would have made me think that this is a very, very tough action? In which case, I might do that rouse check.
No, I don't think you can tell how much the counterweight inside will weigh from looking at the outside. So
then, prior to my adding potence, my first attempt would have been 4 successes.
Okay, it doesn't budge. Either you don't think it's stuck because you can hear a slight clicking inside as like, things start to turn. I mean, I won't make you make a roll for it. This seems like someone has made this door specifically so that only individuals with superhuman strength could open it.
Mandrill.
Arthur,
Sorry.
Arthur, do you have any blood on you? Does any of you pick up any? All right. Well, never mind.
I thought an evening with actually having a body temperature wouldn't do well with bringing blood.
But perhaps we could assist you with this task in some way, Mandrill.
No, I'll just give me a second.
The size of the wheel and the way it's placed really does preclude, other than if a couple of you are really small, kind of precludes more than one. You've got to stand braced against it and tip the
Okay.
other half of your body.
I was imagining a bunch of different spokes and we could kind of stand and... Sure.
Like, it all comes together because it has been designed for one very powerful person to be able to open it.
How strong is Jazz?
Oh,
Strong
okay,
enough
so
to keep the door in.
with my willpower reroll and my prowess, I get 6 successes, but I also have gained a point of hunger.
Which has taken you to
4.
Ooh. So you kind of grip it, heave, and kind of let out an involuntary, not air, but certainly a noise of discomfort. And just as when you think you're going to have to let go, it tips and spins. That once you've got it moving, the whole thing almost starts to revolve by itself. There is a creak, a slight burst of dust from the top and sides of the door, and you find yourself having to step backwards as the door kind of automatically swings open a little bit.
Whoa, nice one.
A marvellous display, Mandrill.
Inside is an evenly lit sort of chamber or small room. And inside that are 3 figures. One is laying on the ground and looks very, very dead. You may all recognize her, but Arthur certainly does. It is Violet Prentice of Clan Ventru. When I say dead, I mean normal human dead. Not burnt to a crisp. She looks like she's in torpor. Let's go through them one by one. Let's have an image of Violet up on screen so people can see. She's kind of average build, long dark hair, dressed as that in quite old-fashioned sort of turn of the century garb. And as I say, she looks to be in torpor. The next figure is someone who is very slowly sort of picking herself up off the ground. And is a darker skinned woman in a more modern, form-fitting black dress, who several of you recognize, but you don't know her name. Can we have the image of Rorica Quaid up, please, which tells you all who it is, but there's no real reason for any of you to know her especially. And she's kind of slowly clambering to her feet, and then in front of them, sat in the center of the room in a kind of meditative posture with her eyes closed is another woman who looks maybe to be of Middle Eastern or North African extraction. And she's wearing quite flowing robes, sort of lace and robe type clothing. And she doesn't even seem to have registered that you've opened the door. And again, someone you may have seen, but none of you have interacted with. This is Harika Gulyan. So, yes. Harika isn't responding to you. Violet is in torpor, and Rorica, I really don't know why I picked Harika and Rorica for the same group, is kind of slowly clambering to her feet. looking at you all, it has to be said, quite hungrily.
Hello, welcome back. How do we find you all this evening?
Rorika, who's the only one really reacting to your presence so far, has found her feet and is staggering towards you. She has her arms kind of outstretched towards the closest of you, which I'm imagining is Mandrill, and is just going, please, please.
Oh. Were you... I think they were trapped in here.
Which means they're probably quite hungry.
Ohana is stepping past the group of you. Is anyone going to kind of do anything to interact with her doing this, or?
I think Mandrill probably, she would step into the room, but would be using her animalism to kind of sense the beast in these people. Are any of these people immediately going to attack us, given how hungry they look?
I think
that's kind of.
I think that's a great idea. Go ahead and make that roll. Absolutely.
Cool. So I think it's an opposed IG resolve plus animalism, and they have composure versus subterfuge if they're trying to hide.
Okay, well, I'm going to set it at 3 difficulty for you then.
Okay. And I've got all of those lovely hunger die now as well.
Nice. Ooh, a bestial failure of sense the beast is a fun thing to imagine, isn't it?
Well, you don't have to imagine it, cause.
Okay. As always, my suggestions. Sorry. Okay.
Well, actually, sorry.
Damn it.
Yeah. So but I think you said the difficulty was 3, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. So yes. Bestial failure. Then great. And you got some 1s on hunger dice, yeah?
Yeah. 1.
Yeah. Okay. And as always, my bestial failures. Feel free to go, really not that, counter suggestions. But I'm going to say, Mandrill, you get blaring sort of supernatural beast sense alarms. This woman, Rorika, she is coming for all of you, and she is hungry, and she wants your blood. Mandrill steps forward, kind of grabs her, doesn't kind of tackle her to the floor, but kind of, does Mandrill have any points in Brawl?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. Am I still pumped up from my?
Yeah. I'm not asking you to make a roll. I just want to know if you know how to brawl with someone. And you kind of just lock her in a hold to restrain her. And she kind of once you've got her in the hold, you think you may have slightly overestimated. She is hungry and she could be dangerous, but you're pretty sure now you've got her in the hold that she was not going to attack. As you do this, Ohana kind of steps up to you and kind of puts a hand on your shoulder and says, "No, there's no need. Oh, she'll be fine. She's my friend." And
Mandrill, let her go.
Offers up her wrist to Rorika, who makes a horrific animal noise and starts drinking from Ohana. I think that's probably I think that's potentially some willpower damage from Mandrill. What do you think? From a slightly embarrassing overreaction.
100%. Mandrill is ashamed. Mandrill has been very improper and impolite, and are happy to take 1, 2. What do you thought?
I think 1's fine. I think 1's fine for willpower damage on there. Are you releasing her now?
Oh, certainly. I'm probably releasing her, and then I'm probably making my way out of the room towards the back of the group, up the stairs into the corridor to kind of hide my shame.
Sure, there are no stairs, but yeah.
Sure.
I think that's fine. As you kind of come out of the room, Jazz looks over at you and just kind of raises one quite well trimmed eyebrow at you, and then just kind of looks away, more or less disinterested. As Ohana feeds Rorika back to some semblance of normality, anyone paying attention to the wider scene will see Harika's eyes flick open, take a moment, and then she stands slightly weak looking, but definitely not like Rorika was, and says, "Are we safe?"
For now. We believe the outside of the building may be being watched, but no one's bearing down on us.
We're the relief crew.
I'm sorry. I perhaps misunderstand you. You believe they may still be here?
I am afraid that we are not fully of the understanding of who they are. Perhaps you could enlighten us, as your comrade was sadly unable to.
She looks a little taken aback and says, "We should leave now."
I think that sounds very sensible, and I'll look around at my two remaining friends.
Absolutely.
Yes. Why? What is the present danger?
They came for us.
The Second Inquisition?
Call them what you will. Why are we talking?
Okay, let's go.
Do you have blood remaining somewhere here before we depart, as I fear we may cause a problem in current states?
Harika bends down and kind of heaves Violet over her shoulder with a bit of difficulty and turns and says, "Clearly, we do not."
Alex will gesture grandly once again, as if it is their place to gesture to the door.
Sure. Right. I don't think anyone needs to roll for hearing the door get kicked open. But you know what? And this is a fun little roll to make. Why doesn't everyone give me a resolve plus firearms roll?
Okay.
Is this an awareness kind of?
Yes.
Roll? As in, does heightened senses apply?
Oh,
basically,
it's more about knowledge than specifically hearing it, because everyone can hear it, so I'd say no.
That's fine.
Okay.
Is it loud enough to... Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Is it loud enough to trigger the problem with heightened senses of loud noises?
No.
Okay. Well, in which case, I'm turning it off now, once I've heard firearms.
Yeah.
How many successes?
Let's go for 2.
I got 1.
Nope.
Nope. So he's
Bestial failure.
okay. I can't think of anything specific for this, Justin. So why don't you tell me what your what's the typically it's the cryptophilia, right? Is the
Yeah, I was going to suggest, because if man doesn't know, maybe that not knowing.
I got 1 success. I don't know if that matters at all.
No, it doesn't in slightest. There's
Cool.
no marginal successes in this.
What is the stimulus?
Well, that's a good question. And you know what? I've come up with something. It's all fine. Well, I say I come up with it. What Neill said helped. So essentially, you all hear the door's being kicked in, and a noise, an odd sort of kind of slightly clicking, whumping noise, and none of you recognize what it is. Mandrill, you need to know what that is. It's an unknown threat. You've already been threatened once. You desperately need to get to that front door and find out what the hell whoever's coming in is doing. Because if you don't know, they won't know, and they sure as hell can't help themselves.
Cool.
Okay.
Loving it.
Mandrill, well, you were in that corridor anyway, so you can kind of see what's going on. You can see the doors get kicked open, and as they do so, Jazz basically kind of ducks down and dashes along a side aisle.
Well, I think my reaction then is, as we said, I'll probably try and move to where Jazz was and then reassess.
Absolutely. So you can see now there's light pouring out of this corridor behind you. And ahead of you, you can see the light from the street coming in, and you can see several figures moving into the store from there. You can't see them clearly enough to kind of get a good grip on who they are or what they look like. But they're certainly coming in. The three of you back by the panic room, I assume you're heading down that corridor.
Yes, but I will also ask, is there, like, to one of the Ohana or was it Violet who was one of the
Violet was unconscious. Well,
Violet's unconscious. It's Harika and Rory
Okay.
are the ones.
Okay, I'll ask those three, basically, is there any other way out than that main entrance?
Harika shakes her head slowly and says, none that we can get to from here without going through the main store.
Okay.
right.
Alex will just be moving swiftly then in whatever direction they seem to be leading us.
Sure. But essentially the only way, out seems to be back where you've come from. I guess you could check the other three doors in this corridor that went off it, but the fact that the three who lived here aren't even looking at those doors probably suggests may not be worth it. So I think we can go into our first conflict, physical conflict. So the way I won't go into huge details on how this works because it's quite simple fundamentally. But initiative in Vampire, at least the kind of the basic initiative setup, works in a very simplistic way. It just arranges things by what people are the kind of attacks or things that people are doing, and then you just play them out in whatever order feels right. So there's no kind of rolling for initiative or anything like that. So that's absolutely fine. And normally we would start with close combat that's already established. There is none. We then move on to ranged. And we definitely have some ranged. So Mandrill is standing flush with a backing of light. So Mandrill is going to get shot at. So with that in mind, let's see what it's normally, I believe...
It's initiative. This is for initiative.
As I just said, there is no initiative, effectively. So what we're looking for here is for you to have a kind of... Basically, in Vampire, anytime there's combat going on, it's always opposed, right? So what we're going to do is look at your defense for this and against their actual roll. And whoever comes out on top determines whether they hit you or not.
Was it dexterity plus athletics? Is that the one?
It may well be. 1 second. I had this.
It's Dex plus Athletics with -2 if you're not in cover.
Thank you. You are most definitely not in cover.
So I take away 2 die.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Only 4 then.
All hunger?
All hunger. 5 successes.
Fantastic. Well, that's a good start. I am not going to be rolling for enemy attacks. I'm just going to be taking half for their attacks. I may change that in future, but for now, I think that's fine. And with that in mind, your 5 successes, basically you hear the crack of weapons fire starting, and you just dive straight down to the floor and scramble behind a kind of large rack of. It still has some fur coats draped over it, and are just there, kind of semi-crawling, semi-scrambling, as you can kind of feel bits of the countertop spraying out over the top of your head as someone is opening fire on you. But so far, they have not hit you.
Now, fur armor, that's normally below padded armor. So if I put one of those on, is that 1 die?
I would say that you would require at least 300 fur coats before you build up the requisite bullets defense. So that's the only ranged attack that's going to happen. So then we have new close combat. So I don't think any of you are close enough to be engaging these guys in close combat. So we'll gloss over that. Everything else, I would say I'm going to judge that the first person to be running down that corridor ahead of the group is Oscar, because Oscar is a very flighty man. So I think Oscar may have panicked quicker than the rest of you. So Oscar, what are you doing in this situation?
So I haven't seen any. I've obviously heard gunshots. You
can probably, because it's just a straight corridor down to that door, you can probably see figures around the doorway now, and you can certainly hear gunfire.
I think I want to get into cover. So is the closest cover to me in that room, or is it the door nearby?
I would say the closest cover is actually the walls to the side of those big doors that led into this corridor. I think you can kind of dive and get and kind of hunch behind those. There's probably only room for one person on each side, but you can definitely hunch, and there's a big brick wall there, blocking people from firing against you. So I think you can certainly do that. Sure. I would say you can do more than that if you want to do something active as well, because you're quite close to that anyway.
If there's only one space for one person there, I think I'm going to try to push my luck and go into the room and leave that for somebody who's trailing behind.
Sure, and kind of try and find some decent cover in there.
Yeah, and then if possible, I would like to be. I think that they were shooting at Mandrill. So I'm going to try to make a lot of intimidating noise to attempt to draw fire towards myself, because I don't see myself as being particularly useful at attacking people.
Okay.
Whereas I think Mandrill is tremendously valuable.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And hungry.
Well then, so that's a kind of sort of in some ways a double action, but I think that's fine. It all flows together. Why don't we have a wits plus awareness roll for trying to find that cover? Yeah,
2 successes.
Okay.
And it's a potential. Well, I don't know. Okay.
No, I think again, I'm not saying it's particular. Basically, it's what kind of cover you get is this.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think you can kind of dash out and you go on like the other side that Mandrill did. But again, there's all sorts of countertops and shelving here, and you kind of dive behind one of those. And basically, are you just kind of shouting aimlessly and waving your hands, or operating a specific noise-making policy?
I think I'm going to be trying to make a kind of threatening speech, like, you shouldn't have come here. I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to tear you apart, sort of thing.
Sure.
This is the man.
Thank you, Steve.
They don't see me necessarily.
Oh, wonderful. I think that's fine. You know what? I think you can start doing it here, but let's have you make a roll for it on the next turn. I think that's fair. So yeah, we can get ready for doing that. I'm going to say that. I'd say that Alex is at the back of the group because I think I'm just talking to people. So Arthur, let's say you're next.
I am going to run to the brick wall that Oscar ran past, like on the side of the doors, and I want to try and get an idea of the room. So, like, how many people have come in? Is there any available cover that hasn't been taken by a giant shouting teddy bear of a man? And if there is like additional time after that, I'm trying to direct the people behind me to that cover, particularly, I can't remember if it was Rorika or Harika, but whoever it was that picked up
that would be
Violet.
Harika. Tell you what, why don't we start calling Rorika Quaid?
Sure.
That's her second name. So let's call Rorika Quaid for now. I think that's absolutely fine. You get into that cover. Give me a wits plus alert. No, your choice of wits or resolve, I think, is either fine. Because it's one of those things where you don't want to penalize someone for taking long, having more of an opportunity to look. So your choice of them plus awareness roll, and let's have that set at. I think that needs an actual difficulty. Let's have that set at difficulty 3 because I think it's quite a chaotic situation to try and poke your head out without getting it shot.
That is 4 successes.
Nice.
And I was also going to be drawing my stick thing, flailing wildly at the camera. Absolutely.
You think that there are 5 individuals who have come in through those doors. You also notice a small popping noise and see that smoke has started billowing out from a few of the nearby aisles as they come in. There's no light coming off it, though, so maybe smoke grenades of some kind. Okay. You cannot see Jazz. You can see Mandrill down on one side and Oscar down on the other side, as in cover, not down. But that there's not much more to see than that. You think, but you're not entirely sure, that every one of those 5 individuals has. They all seem to be using some kind of large handgun, pistol type weapon, and they also seem to have some kind of bulky stuff on their head.
So I'm guessing they've got their eyes covered.
You can't see from that close, but I don't know how much Rainbow Six Siege Arthur Norris has played, but that military headgear, right? Goggles or some kind of sights, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay, Alex.
What are the other people who went in front of me doing?
I'll go on a rough scale of NPCs go last in this, so I'm going to say they're around you and not really taking action yet.
Okay. So just because obviously there's a lot of description there of what Arthur knows, just to refresh myself of the fact that I haven't done all that, all I basically see is department store, people coming that way, smoke grenades, shouting, firearms.
I would say you can't see the smoke grenades yet. Or you can hear shouting, you can hear firearms, and you can see a few several individuals moving in through the front doors of the store.
Okay, then Alex will try and take charge of the 3 Compass Mentis survivors.
Yeah. 3 in a corpse.
3 in a corpse. I try and direct them to relevant pieces of cover, having got there first and using leadership skills.
If you want to guide them towards of the cover immediately in front of you, there is only one space by the door. Otherwise, it entails going into the main store or kind of ducking into one of these side rooms, maybe. So it's up to you what Alex designates.
Alex definitely won't be charging into a field of fire to get shot at. So either just taking a quick peek around the door back and then trying to give orders, or if that's not reasonable, I'll just say, give me the body and you deal with that, basically.
You kind of turn towards Harika to kind of say, do you want me to? And Harika is literally moving towards you, pushing Violet's body onto your shoulder already. Can you give me a strength plus athletics roll, difficulty?
I can.
Difficulty 1. I think you just take someone on your shoulder. She's not large. Yeah, you kind of, and then take it. And Harika moves past you quite speedily and kind of hunched down with you notice as she goes past, one of her hands has kind of moved underneath her robe and is kind of gripping something, drawing something. You're not sure what. And then we have the actions of the others. Sorry. Where did you say you kind of directed them towards?
I'm not having the easiest time picturing the scene, so wherever is sensible based on.
Sure. With you not taking cover, is that, or not moving kind of yourself? The space you have available to you, you're in this corridor, this back corridor. There's large doors ahead of you leading out to the main store. On one side of that door, in the cover on one side, is Arthur. The other side, empty. Within the store, you can't really see what Mandrill and Oscar are doing, but they have taken cover just among various counters and shelving. And then at the far side of that main room, there are individuals coming through the main street door with weapons that they're shooting at you. And in the corridor there's some closed doors on the other side.
But there's no. You said there's one possible cover spot, and I'm assuming that
unless you want to go into the main room, there is one cover spot here without kind of going into seeing what's in these other rooms.
As long as I'm the only person who would take that cover, then I'll take it, and I'll try.
There is also Rurika and Ohana, but they haven't moved yet. So
then I'll try and take the cover and take the body with me and kind of like hunch down, but that's why I'm protecting both of us.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. You do that, and as you kind of glance behind you, you see Rurika and Ohana kind of shoulder their way into one of these side rooms. I think that's our group. So let's go back to the beginning of the round. So we don't have any old close combat to be doing. We do, however, have some ranged. So I'm going to say that now, I don't know who they'd be shooting at, really. I'm going to actually say that both Mandrill and Oscar are going to take some shots at them. So I'm going to need both of you to give me dexterity plus athletics rolls at a +1. So you can take an extra die and add it in, and then let me know how many successes you've got.
0.
I got 4 successes with a messy critical.
Nice.
It's all going to be messy here on out, guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
Total failure.
A total failure. Okay. Yeah. So in that case, that will be 4 and a. Has anyone got off the top of their head the? Oh no. Ignore me. I snipped it out earlier for this very purpose. Yeah. Okay. So you're more of an expert on the system in this than I currently am, Neill. Is there any soak in V5? There isn't, is there?
Just the vampire's half superficial.
Yes. Round up or round down? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't, but I can check quickly.
I might actually have it. Rounding up. Okay. In that case, Oscar, can you take for me 4 superficial damage?
Okay. I'm gonna burst you apart. I'm gonna.
Yeah, sure. As you're kind of like slightly lurking towards the top of this, yelling at the top of your lungs, and you know what? While you're being hit, seems like a good time. Let's put your action in here, right? So why don't you give me a I really don't think normally I'd let people use kind of whatever social attribute they wanted to flavor this. I don't think we can use composure, which is basically part of your appearance for Oscar, right?
Sure.
So use either charisma or manipulation plus intimidation.
Okay.
And let's give a roll to see how that might work out. Alex.
He could always use strength by using his big, imposing
His
nature.
big muscles.
Oh yeah, that's actually significantly worse.
Only suggestions for comic effect, not real recommendation.
I got one success.
Okay, you're not doing a terribly good job of this, but
I'm gonna kill
you are distracting, but you're not intimidating.
Sure.
And you're just kind of like flailing around, and as you kind of pop up to go over here, I'll get you. Bang.
Yeah.
You fit. Obviously, you've never been shot before. You feel like the impact of it, like a powerful punch to your shoulder, an oddly kind of dulled sense of pain. You immediately get the impression that if you'd have been, still alive, this would have hurt a lot more. And you kind of slump to the ground, reacting however you want. It's up to you how Oscar reacts on being shot for the first time. But it's certainly ruined your shirt.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm kind of shocked, and then I think if I was mortal, I would be crying right now. But instead, I kind of whimper.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Is there any when you Neill, again, you'll know this. When you rouse the blood to heal, is that an action? Or is it a kind of passive can be done?
I think it's an action. I'm like 90% sure. But I'll double check.
If you can have a look, because I think this would be an ideal opportunity for Oscar to do this reflexively, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
As he learns the various things
I
about
really don't like this.
Being kindred. But while Neil's having a look at that, Mandrel's messy critical. I think that's very, very fun. So can you give me you know what? It's a messy critical. I think that's fine. I think the reason they have avoided hitting you is because you rather unexpectedly scrambled over the top of the counter towards the nearest one. And you know what? I think a messy critical is a reasonable point at which to... I think I'm going to make you roll for frenzy.
I want to eat him.
So I'm going to set that difficulty at 2. And I did think I had written down the rules for frenzy here, but
I'm planning on failing this.
I think you can't voluntarily fail in.
I'm hoping to fail. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
ride the wave though.
How would one do that? Please?
Composure.
You mean riding? Sorry.
Yeah, is that like a kind of voluntary one, or?
Yeah, basically, if you fail a frenzy check, you can choose to direct yourself somewhat with the discretion of the storyteller.
Okay, I see. So you're in a kind of half frenzy, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that give you any kind of mechanical advantage in any way, though?
No, it's mainly so that you decide if there's a frenzy combat who you go after first, but you still have to follow the rules of frenzy.
You still have to follow the rules of frenzy. Okay,
so what is the frenzy roll?
It's a willpower roll, and I'm going to set it at difficulty 2.
Oh, I've spent all my willpower already.
And you've taken your power damage, right?
Do I use hunger die?
You do not use hunger dice in a willpower roll, no. But it is your temporary willpower, not your...
Unfortunately, 3 successes.
Okay. Well, if you want, you can still ride the wave, as Alex /Neill pointed out. You can, kind of basically voluntarily frenzy, but you get a bit more direction in it.
I don't think I will. I think I'll try and. I think if I've not frenzied, Mandrill has decided to keep control of herself to not die, which is reasonable. I'll trust Mandrill on this.
Yeah, sure. Well, you've scrambled. One of them, you could kind of hear them because they're moving forwards very quickly and very professionally seeming, and you could hear one aisle away, kind of not next to you on the other side of the counter, but one over, kind of moving forward. You can't hear what they're saying, but they're definitely kind of muttering something into some kind of communication device. And as you heard them kind of coming alongside you, it just built up, and you scramble over the top and leap bodily over the aisle, and they kind of swing round and try and swing round their gun. Too slow. I take it you want to hurt them.
I want to eat them. If I had the potence ability to drain them bodily in one action, I would.
Sure. Well, why don't you give me a? Well, this will be. This is the thing. I'm not sure whether how loose we should be playing this, but I think this is, rather than strength, I think this is a dexterity plus brawl roll.
Same to me.
So, and I would say that your difficulty versus them is going to be. Ooh, that's pretty good.
Just to say, I ignore 2 points of armor and I do aggravated damage.
That's absolutely fine.
For free.
Let's see if you hit them first.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a difficulty 4 to hit them.
3 successes. Do I want to re-roll one? For even more of the... I have no willpower left.
Yeah.
Thing is, I've only got 4 dice, so... I don't think I can... I'd have to... Yeah. I mean... Oh. Yeah, fine. I'll go home. Down to two willpower.
Alex seems to be about to suggest something, which maybe...
No, I was going to suggest you could have tried a blood surge before rolling, because then it doesn't matter if you get hungry, because you're going to feed, but too late.
But that would also... Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Hang on, did you say you've only got 4 dice?
Yeah, they're all hunger dice. You can't re-roll them.
Oh, I can't re-roll them. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you can't re-roll hunger dice.
That's a good point.
Okay. You basically kind of... They sidestep at the last moment, and you land on the floor of the department store, kind of 3 hands down, looking up at them, ready to pounce on them. And they're kind of they're kind of desperately trying to sling their gun with one hand and fumble for something more appropriate with the other. But we'll see. Hopping back to Oscar a second. It looks like from our lovely little private chat here, you can indeed heal just in one turn. So what you do need to do is make a rouse check.
Yep.
You will heal regardless, but make the rouse check.
0 successes, so I get a bit hungrier.
You get a bit hungrier, and then you heal superficial health damage based on your blood potency. I don't immediately have that here, but yeah, I'm guessing it's going to be 1, so you can heal up a superficial point there. Okay, let's move on to we've done all the firearms from them firing. We should move on to new close combat, but the only one that's new close combat we've already just done, right? I think so. Everything else now, let's just stick with the order we had before. So Arthur, what are you doing?
I'm going to crouch there. I'm going to forget how to talk. And then I'm going to try and get out the door, I think.
At the main door? Run past everything?
No, I'm trying to get out of the corridor door into the main room. And then, even though I didn't see it... Sorry?
You don't need to, you can just do that.
Well, I'm going to do that. And then, even though I don't know this is what he's done, I'm going to basically do the same thing as Jazz and, run down Neill to a far side of a shop and try and cut round.
Trying to flank them.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Okay. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Can you give me a wits plus athletics roll to try and see how well you do with that? I'm going to say it's got a difficulty of 2, but if you get more than that, it will, reflexively get better how much you do. That makes sense.
Athletics. Two successes.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of duck out, and Jazz went to the right, so it's probably fair to say you'd go to the left. Is that do you think?
I mean, I don't know which direction Jazz went, so I think I just go whichever one's closest.
I have you in my mind's eye. You were on the left-hand side, so
Sure.
let's say you duck out and dash down the left-hand side. As you do so, you can register a Nosferatu kind of scrambling over the countertops just in front of you and sort of trying to batter into one of these individuals in kind of, now they're close enough, and obviously Mandrill will have been able to see as well. They are head to toe in kind of, your loose understanding, again, Spec Ops gear, right? All black, riot gear, sort of goggled headsets with kind of those telescoping lenses. They look dangerously professional. You duck round along the counter and kind of round to where there's like long racks, mostly empty, but some have like odd old like tin food and things like that. And you're kind of dashing along those relatively fast, but also, I imagine, pretty cautiously.
Yes.
You definitely, they'll have seen you for sure. But where you are now, you're actually quite kind of these taller racks are on either side of the room. So you're actually quite well in cover, and you suspect, but you're not 100% sure that you're near enough one of them that you could try and, if you wanted to, rush them in your next round with your telescoping shock stick and try and do a number on them if you wanted to. So what is Alex doing?
Alex would like to try popping up out of cover, taking a quick look, and seeing and then hopefully in the same action, but we'll see. Seeing if there's any useful instruction I could shout to anyone nearby.
Like anything they should know, anything they should be aware of.
So someone creeping up on them doesn't. Or
sure. Why don't you give me a again, your choice of wits or resolve plus awareness.
No, actually, no, it doesn't matter anyway. I was going to ask if I could do something which would be a worse roll anyway, so there's no point.
Sure. And I am going to set a difficulty at this. I'm going to set a difficulty of 3. There we go. Okay. You are kind of rough. Sorry.
Does instincts count for that?
No, I don't think so. No. So you can see a pretty good layout of the room. You've seen that Oscar's been shot. You can see where Arthur is, roughly where the next closest to them is. And I'd say the piece of information you can see from all this that's valuable is you can see the best one of them for Arthur to rush. And if you yell out, down the aisle to your right, Arthur, whatever, that kind of thing, then.
Yeah.
Okay. How's Alex phrasing it, though, interestingly? Because
yes, I was going to try. I'm just trying to control myself so I don't shout it down the microphone, because that is my instinct, but that would be quite awkward. So, down aisle right, Arthur.
Sounds good. So, the Jazz and Harika, I don't think any of you are aware. Actually, no. Alex did a good roll. Let's say that Alex, you can see Harika basically, because they're spread among the aisles now, Harika is basically creeping up that central pathway, the one that kind of leads straight to the door between kind of the central aisle, right? But she's hunched over very low. And has something kind of glinting and shiny in the soft light that's coming from both doors in one hand, and is kind of creeping closer to the center of the group of them. And as you watch, one of them that's furthest over the right hand side, it's honestly almost comedic. Hell, to Alex, with Alex's personal demons, maybe it is funny. It's almost a slapstick as one of them gets pulled out of sight behind one of the side racks over on the right-hand side. There are now 4 of them up that you can see up and moving, and one's just been pulled away. I don't think Quaid and Hannah are doing it. Maybe they're doing something in that room. You don't know. No one knows. So, background to the start. We've got old close combat first, and that will be Mandrill. So,
Cool.
Mandrill, I'm assuming you're just going to try and batter the hell out of this guy, get a good grip on him.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smash their face in. Expose the veins.
Sounds good. So why don't you give me a roll for that, and I will find out the legitimate intended close combat default roll while we do that.
I think both defend with the same.
Well, dexterity
athletics plus dexterity.
It won't be athletics plus. It won't be athletics. It'll be.
It depends. If they're trying to brawl back, then they won't have a separate defense. They'll just do their own brawl in retaliation.
Oh yeah, it depends what they're doing. I was actually not looking for his. I'm fine with his defense. I was specifically looking for what role Justin should be making for a standard kind of brawl attack or whatever.
Well, my strength and dexterity are the same.
Oh, well, that's all right then. Let's just do that then. Dex plus brawl or strength plus brawl. Like you say, it doesn't matter. And again, you know what? I'm going to say you have startled this guy, and he's probably still hasn't managed to switch out for an appropriate weapon. So I'm going to reduce his die pool in response by 1, which means I'm going to give you a target of 3 successes.
Well,
to get kind of grappling hold of this guy.
More hunger die. I can't re-roll anything. 2 successes.
Okay. To be clear, are you trying to cause damage, or are you just trying to grapple them and get your teeth into them? I mean, you haven't done it either way, right? But it's worth asking the question.
Is it more difficult to? Is it a more challenging thing to grapple and get my teeth?
Yeah,
into,
because you have to go and grapple them first and then strike. Whereas
I think I'm just causing damage at the moment.
Causing damage. Well, you miss anyway. So yeah, you kind of swing for the guy. He ducks backwards as he's fumbling under his flak jacket. Yeah, there's a lot of room there. Fumbling around for something more appropriate to meet your attack with. So next we've got good old ranged, and I would say that another shot at Oscar might be taken, but I think you've kind of crumpled down on the ground here. So I'm going to give you a +2 to your cover, and I'm going to say another shot is going in on Alex. I say another shot. The first shot is going in on Alex, but I think you've got a +2 cover where you are. So so that's the appropriate roll, please. It is indeed.
It was dexterity, right?
Dexterity plus athletics, and you've both got +2 to your dice pools, and you're looking to. Well, just let me know how much you got. Fantastic.
0 successes in a glorious. We are having a good time.
Fun time.
So I'm just like, is that the best you've got?
Is that? Oh my god!
And then proceed.
3 successes. Okay. You have both been shot. So that is 4 superficial damage to both of you.
Halved?
Yeah, I have halved it. Yes.
Okay, so I have a maximum health of 5.
Yes.
If I'm taking 4 superficial, and I'm currently on 3 superficial, so I obviously go up to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Do I then take the excess as like normal damage, like actual real damage? Is that the way it works?
So once your tracker is full of damage, you are impaired. Okay. So your pools in your physical pools are reduced by 2 until the tracker is no longer full. And any additional damage results in superficial damage converting to aggravated damage.
Okay. So yeah, I am just on 5 then.
Yeah.
5 superficial.
Cool.
God.
Are you on 5 superficial? What were you on already? You were on 3, right?
So I was on 4. I healed 1, back down to 3,
Yep.
and then I took another 4 superficial damage, which I assume just caps me out at 5.
No, it takes you to the 2 takes you to 5, right?
Yeah,
and then
and I have another
for every
2 to take.
additional point, you convert 2 points of superficial to aggravated.
Okay, so I've now got 1 point of aggravated damage.
2 points of aggravated
2 points of aggravated damage. Okay.
And 3 points of superficial, and you're impaired, so all of your physical
Oh,
takes.
jeez. This
Yeah,
feels real bad.
you're very
God.
bad.
Am I going to die?
You essentially just took a bullet to your neck and are now kind of completely sprawled on the floor. You can feel blood. It's not pulsing, but it's just leaking, dripping from the wound on the back of your neck and on your shoulder as you kind of you're not in a good state whatsoever.
No.
I'm assuming that Alex has just taken that 4 superficial. Yep. The round basically blew out your kneecap as like you were leaning round, and they didn't get your head, fortunately, but they managed to shoot you in the knee. Fun times. So,
Don't like that.
Yeah.
no
Feel
one likes
real
to
bad.
me, I don't think. So we've got new close combat now, and I'm going to assume that Arthur is to be included in this.
Yes. I think when he first got himself in this position, he was torn between just running for the exit. But then the Malkavian spoke, and a wise person once said, when a Malkavian speaks, either completely ignore them or do exactly what they say and don't think about it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
you kind of peek round and see the guy is indeed. In fact, the guy has just shot Alex, and isn't paying any attention to you whatsoever. So you know what? I'm actually going to say that you get effectively. I'm going to massively reduce their defense pool here for your attack. So let's go with. Give me a dexterity plus. Would that be melee or would it be brawl if you're just?
I hope it's melee.
Oh well, if you have melee, then go with melee. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Dexterity plus melee roll, and they have that on that. But I'm going to massively reduce that. So you know what? I just want a success off you. That's all I need.
You get 2.
2. So, in that case, let's deal with the damage here. So, what we will do is take the damage that your actual weapon does, which is a +2. And on that, you add the success margin of the attack.
So that's an extra 1, right?
Extra 1. So, you do 3 damage to this guy. They are... His armor just literally just comes off on a 1-for-1 basis, right?
It converts aggravated to superficial.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay.
That's not a concern in this particular circumstance. So effectively, there's no advantage to mortals having armor ever?
To mortals, yeah, but it converts aggravated to superficial. So gunshots, swords, etc. all become superficial.
Because it's different. Yeah. Okay.
There's no
well,
benefit to vampire.
This is superficial damage anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter. Which it wouldn't, I guess, unless it's plate armor. So you rush the guy. He kind of sees you coming out of the corner of his vision at the very last moment and is turning to try and get to you. But no, you kind of whip out the baton and just thrash him across the throat with it. And he staggers backwards. His headset kind of goes to one side, not off, but off to one side. And he makes an unpleasant noise as you've done something pretty horrible to this guy's neck. He's still up and running, but it's a good start. So everything else, let's start with Oscar. Oscar, what are you doing?
Okay, am I anywhere near like, first off, I'm obviously like holding my neck. I don't think I can do anything physical at all. Am I anywhere near the light switches? Or not? Because I think I noticed that these people are wearing night vision goggles.
Okay. Yeah, I like this. So this is where a luck stat from Call of Cthulhu would come in handy, right?
Yeah.
Let's sort this with a good old-fashioned roll. Let's say, give me an intelligence plus technology roll.
Okay.
Difficulty 3, and if you make it, I'll say there is a light switch near you, but it's the only way I can randomly determine that, right? So intelligence
I got
plus technology.
1 success. I fumble around and I'm like, this is a light switch, and I press it and it's just not a light switch.
And it's a trigger for a heavy net of rocks above you that yeah. No, you're kind of crawling around trying to see one, trying to get to it, but otherwise, no. You are definitely kind of fully on the ground now.
Yeah.
So they'll actually really struggle to shoot you. Is the positive of all this? But
unless I crawl into them or something, which knowing my luck.
Well, maybe. What is Alex doing? Presumably, other than cradling his knee.
Well, Alex will do the same thing as they did before and rouse the blood to heal 1 point of superficial.
Cool. Oh, yes. Also, Oscar, you can do that should you want to do that.
Oh, yeah, I should.
You should. It will only take away your superficial at this point.
Yep.
So for that. Yeah.
And I did not gain hunger from doing that, fortunately.
Good. Cool. So the same thing you did before, as in you're going to try and take another look and see if I would say you don't particularly need to do that because you've got a fairly good sense of what's happening now.
Instead, then, is there any like piece of debris or like clutter on the ground next to me that I can pick up and basically throw to cause a distraction?
There isn't where you are, but if you moved, which you can do fairly easily, behind the countertops in into low cover, it would be lesser cover, but there's definitely plenty of kind of old knickknacks and now chunks of countertop around that you could try and heave.
I'm definitely not moving out of cover.
It's not out of cover; it's just less cover.
I'm not moving to less good cover, given how much damage I took from that shot. I am going to use a premonition to see what I should do.
Okay, go for it.
Which seems eminently sensible.
Nothing like a
premonition is just
yeah.
The premonition is just a person comes up behind Alex and shoots him in the back of the head.
Not to break a trend, because I would not wish to do that, but I had a messy critical for my 3rd premonition in a row with 1, 2, 7, 8 successes. Messy critical premonition.
Okay. Oh God. I'm not agonizing. You know, this isn't like a moment for our Simbroom streams where one of our players routinely decapitates the bosses in one hit. This isn't a kind of thing. It's just kind of like, oh my God, how do I make a massively meaningful moment out of nowhere? So, you know what? How about this?
And
Alex, good. Alex has a moment of kind of blissful. Everything suddenly, the pain in your knee moves all your senses to like a fine point, and you just have a blissful awareness. You know what everyone's going to do. It's obvious what they're going to do. You can see their choices that they're going to make. We all have our paths to follow. I'm going to say you got 8 successes, right? For the next 4 turns, as long as you don't do anything overt, and attacky or big grand actions. You can do subtle things. You can move through that firefight without anyone taking a shot at you. How about that?
Obscene.
So it's not, it's like you don't see anything in the moment. It's just as you move, you're like, they're going to shoot over there, so I just need to go here.
It's like that scene in Rogue One where the guy with the staff, whose name I've forgotten.
I mean, my thought was Futurama when Fry drinks too much coffee. Equally.
Okay.
I was thinking of Dune, but
yeah, I've just read
Futurama.
To actually be cool with it, yeah, Dune.
It's not that cool. Come on.
Oh, come on. Alex has at least 3 in Weirding Way. So let's see what everyone else is doing. So Alex, you're the main person who can actually see all this. And essentially, you see Harika kind of roll forwards next to the feet of one of them, and the glittering thing in her hand swipes out, and the guy kind of drops down to one knee, yelling, and then kind of collapses on top of Harika, and they're rolling around on the floor, grappling with each other. You also see a blurry shape move very, very fast across the back of a counter and essentially grab the collar of another one of the still standing spec ops types and just drags him to the ground with an audible crunch. So right now, here is the state of everything. To recap, right? One of the enemies is mid grapple fight with Mandrel. Another one of them has now engaged in close combat with Arthur, or rather, Arthur with them. One of them has disappeared off to one side. Another one has been dragged down. And the third one is rolling around on the floor with Harika. So, none of them have guns ready to shoot anymore. So, the kind of the chaos, the noise and the chaos has dimmed down to a kind of rough echo as like various, banging and crunching noises echo through the large chamber. So with that in mind, let's go to old close combat. So Mandrel.
Do they get attack against me?
No, what is happening is they are opposing with you. Before they were just trying to avoid, but now they are actively engaging you in close combat. So what happens is the person who rolls higher hits. If you see what I mean. Although I'm not rolling, I'm just taking half. So again, give me a dexterity plus brawl roll, please.
Was there just one person attacking Mandrel or 2?
Just one.
I thought so.
3 successes.
Okay, then they get a hit in on you. You've had a few fights in your time. These individuals are, I'm gonna guess you're more of a scrappy brawler type.
Yeah, I've not got very high brawl. I just have a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, this guy that you're fighting, he's not kind of like, grappling with you. He seems very calm and is holding a specific position. He looks trained in some form of horrible martial art. And as you make this realization, he is going to hit you. So light impact, let's go with that. So no, you know what? He doesn't have brass knuckles, so it's just going to be basically the extra one. Yeah, take 1 superficial damage as he kind of takes a swing and you just catches you in your chin. Not too bad. You feel it, but it's, you can do worse to him, you're sure. So then we've got Arthur Norris. And I'm going to say you caught this guy by surprise last time. So he's not fighting back at the moment. He's just trying to avoid the next hit from this unpleasant shock baton. which you realize now that you're fighting him, he's literally, you can't see any skin. So you're not entirely sure whether the shock aspect of this is really functioning at all. But regardless, why don't you give me a dexterity plus melee roll, please?
Which is the same as last time.
I'd hope so.
Yes. 1 success.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm wondering if I want to willpower that. No.
If you want it to hit, you might.
I'm going to willpower that.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, hang on, I missed that. That was 2 successes. 2 successes.
Okay. Do you want to use that willpower?
Yes.
Yes.
Why regular kill when you can overkill? I think that's a messy critical. That's a messy critical.
Okay, then. I don't think that there's necessarily, and I am fully prepared for Neill to contradict me, that there's any specific rule around messy criticals in combat. I think it's just, again, left to us to determine, right?
Well, nothing. Although my suggestion as a humble player would be that if they've made enough successes with the messy critical to have succeeded at a call shot, there might be a feeding thing involved.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go down a slightly different tack because that shock baton, right? So I'm going to judge that I said there's no skin showing, but basically this guy staggers backwards as with the first attack and just kind of wrestles that askew headset that he had off his head, and he still has like the actual goggles are still on and are covering his eyes, but now the top of his head, is doesn't have a big helmet on it anymore, and you just, in the moment, as he kind of turns around, you kind of like yelling at the top of his lungs to try and grapple you, you just thrash him across the top of his head with the shock baton. It triggers, and he just lets out a small yelping noise and collapses onto the floor, kind of stiffened up and arcing backwards like he's just been tasered.
If I could offer a slight alteration to that narration, I think the final blow would have been a jab.
Oh, like a, yeah.
After
Like, as if with an
university.
FA. Right, sure. Yeah, that's fine. You just kind of jab it into his face.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. So, that guy's down. We've moved to ranged, but there's no ranged. Is there any new close combat? Oscar or Alex dashing in to save the day?
No, I'm not running in to do any close combat.
No problem. Well, what is Oscar doing then? You can get up, and definitely there's no more gunfire. So
yeah, I think I briefly consider just sort of collapsing and giving up, and then I just sort of think about a face pops into my head, and I don't. I am gonna heave myself up and try to figure out where a light switch would be.
That's absolutely great.
Maybe tracing the wires.
Yeah, sure. Give me a intelligence plus awareness roll. I think is good enough for that, and I'm going to set that at difficulty 2. And that's not physical, so you don't need to take any
so that is
deductions.
I'm rolling 5 dice, and I got 1 success.
Use a willpower to reroll any hunger dice.
I'm going to
remember you can only reroll hunger dice. Only reroll non-hunger dice. Yeah.
I'm doing that. 3 successes.
Hey, there you go. Okay, you stagger up, and there is indeed a light switch about 5 feet away from you on the wall. Are you going to stagger forward and kind of collapse against the wall and trigger that?
Definitely what I'm going to try to do.
Okay, then.
Holding my throat.
Let's draw a line under the combat in this case, because there is now 2 very loud wails. One from the floor near where Harika is, and one from the guy in front of you, Mandrill, who just staggers backwards, kind of clutching wildly at his face. They're incapacitated. So
Very nice.
yeah. As the kind of the dust settles, Harika kind of stands up from the floor. The guy on the floor is very still, and she is holding a kind of long, slightly curved, narrow blade, which she kind of lifts up and licks clean. Obviously, she's a vampire. It's not like she's being a dumb henchman from an action film. It serves a purpose. In front of you, Mandrill, because the lights coming on definitely kind of startled everyone apart from Oscar. And there's a kind of beat as this guy kind of staggers backwards, clutching at his face, and then quicker than Jazz is there before you realize that he's about to arrive. He appears behind this guy, lazily puts one arm around his neck, drags him round, and thrusts him onto the floor on his knees in front of him, batters away his helmet, takes a good solid grip on either side of his head, and I'd say Mandrill and Arthur, you can see what he's doing. The others can only hear it as the man starts screaming at the top of his lungs in a loud, high-pitched wail. Jazz calmly and casually looks over at you, Arthur, and says, "Dear boy, this is what I'm here for." The wailing stops abruptly, and the man sags on one side to the floor. Jazz reaches into his pocket, gets out a handkerchief. Exeunt stage left.
Sounds like a brilliant idea. Collapse my baton. Put it away.
The other members of the coterie, Quaid and Ohana, kind of come out. Between them, they're kind of cradling Violet's torpid body. Is anyone else doing or saying anything in particular before you dash out onto the streets of London?
Help.
There aren't any left, are there?
No, they are. If you move towards the exit, you can see the ones that just kind of vanished out of sight are very, very dead.
I'm going to
Oh,
grab...
actually, the one Arthur hit isn't dead.
That's true.
He's unconscious and in a terrible state, but he's not dead.
I have an action, but I'm waiting for Arthur to...
I sort of already forgotten about that man. I'm going to grab an overcoat or one of the fur coats or whatever and throw it over Oscar to try and hide the large amount of blood on him for when we go out into the street.
Thank you.
Because while we
Sure.
have just had
grab
very
one of
loud
the-
gunfire, we still should at least put in a token effort.
Let's let John finish.
If you grab one of the fur ones, it will just look like a protest. You know, someone's throwing paint all over.
Okay, so Arthur is grabbing a coat. Oscar is being coated. Alex, are you doing anything in particular? Because you seem to have designs on some of these individuals who are not yet cold.
Yes, well, that's what I was thinking. So I have whilst lugging a body behind me, I mean, gently carrying a torpid fellow over to the one whose skull might have been popped, perhaps, or any other closest one that I can find. I will take a quick bite, as I don't need to worry about being slow and gentle because they're already dead.
Yeah. Anyone who wishes to drink from one of the recently dead individuals, like a one-turn... half full drinks are 1 turn per hunger slaked. And obviously, if it's one of the dead ones. You don't need to worry about whether it's harmful or not. Jazz is ambling slowly towards the door. I would say there's 2 turns before he's out of the door. So it's up to you guys how long you drink and etc. And please do let me know if anyone's drinking from the guy who's unconscious, not one of the dead ones.
Slightly relevant information. I failed one of my rouse checks in the last thing, so I'm now on hunger 3. So I would definitely want to drink.
Okay.
Given Alex's premonition, which now doesn't necessarily do anything because of combat, I'll ask this assuming Alex might know it. Is the guy unconscious or just woozy?
He's unconscious.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, he's unconscious. And I think we can safely say that let's take your premonition. Obviously, you didn't make much use of it, although I'm not saying that in an accusatory manner, it's just how the combat went. But let's say that also spins to, like, Alex currently has no sense that you need to leave.
That's fine. So that's what I was going to say. Alex would be taking 2 drinks on the assumption that they would obviously know if there was something important happening.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well then, if Alex is taking a drink for 2 turns, and Jazz, okay, well that's as long as it takes Jazz to leave. So if you want to be just behind him leaving, then that's absolutely fine. So everyone can do that. However, Arthur may have a concern with this.
With the feeding.
Yeah, you have something to take care of. Oh, okay, fair enough. That's fine.
But I was going to say, Mandrel, how do you feel about carrying out a prisoner?
Mandrel is completely dejected from this fight, and will do whatever you want them to do. Just nodding at this point, nodding, covered in blood, just looking disheveled.
Sure.
All right.
We have a reminder in our private chat that Mandrel may be interested in what those noises were.
Well, I mean, I can imagine I might see some as I leave.
Sure. Yeah. This is where it's not as interesting as it could be. The noises were just the smoke grenade launchers. That's all. But the smoke grenades weren't active long enough for them to become a factor. They kind of are now when you're leaving through clouds of smoke. But
But it's a secret, damn it, and the Nosferatu must know.
Yes, you can tell.
You are right.
A couple of them have smoke grenade grenade launcher type things strapped to their backs. That was what it was. So that's fine. Okay, well, everyone who does drink can reduce their hunger by 2 because everyone seemed to say that they were going for a 2-drink action. And then head out into the night. Although, what were we doing with this unconscious guy? Anything in particular?
Apparently, I'm carrying them.
Let's take off the helmet. I say, let's make it so that we can control him if he comes to.
The helmet's already off.
Okay.
You should be able to keep a hand on it.
Sorry, I'm a bit woozy.
Okay.
Mandrel's just repeating, I could have done that. I could have crushed his head if I wanted to.
Sure. So I think now what we will do, we'll wrap up the session with a bit of, just establishing where everything is. So the coterie itself are leaving the store behind Jazz Wentworth. The coterie that lived here are kind of stumbling along behind you as well. And in addition, Mandrel is carrying the prone and unconscious, electrified body of one of these Spec Ops type agents who attacked you. Is that about everything? Have we covered it all? Yeah, I think so. All right. There we go. That's the session. Combat in Vampire V5 still takes ages, but it's definitely better than it was in second and revised edition.
Still nicely brutal if you get enough shots at you, isn't it?
It's much more brutal.
And ages is relative, let's face it.
Yeah. And it's just
much slicker.
And it's important to register as well when we're disappointed about not being able to pummel these guys into a fine mist. As I say, as Mandrel Justin pointed out in our private chat, these were not mooks. Mooks do not have an average success rate of 4 on firearm shots. So I think you did all right. There we go. That's the session. We'll pick up next Tuesday at 8 o'clock again here on Twitch. If you've got any comments or questions, pop them into the chat and Steve will flash them up here for us to respond to. In the meantime, the usual promotional stuff. Again, we have social media links down below, mostly Telling Tales RP, such as on Twitter and Instagram. We also have a YouTube where all our VODs are stored. Go there if you want to get up to date with all of our series. Speaking of other series, we've got another one tomorrow night. Symbaroum, the dark fantasy role-playing game from Free League. It's great. It's well good. Why not come check that out? I think that's it. That's all my spam. So Nosferatu can obscure themselves, but can werewolves smell them? Werewolves can smell anything. Yes. Obfuscate only cloaks sight. It doesn't cloak any other sense, unless it is a power of Obfuscate that specifically does that, like Silence of Death. But if you're using standard Vanishy ones, I don't think they cloak anything but sight.
But
I think the language of it is phrased that I don't think they would notice an unobtrusive smell, but
No.
overpowering smell.
If they were searching for you and they knew you were there, they'd sniff you out. I think that's the idea.
I don't remember if it's still a thing in V5, but in like earlier versions, there was a thing of like vampires don't smell other than environmental smells that they happen to pick up. Like
that is absolutely true. But also possibly not useful for a werewolf. Evilness. Yeah, yes. Werewolf can smell corruption and decay specifically. That's embodied by the cosmic horror god thing known as the worm, of which vampires are creatures of. So, although they don't know that.
Do Nosferatu smell, despite this usual proviso about vampires not smelling?
I think within V5 they can do. I think in V5, the general, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be very wrong. The general thing is that your social stuff is horribly affected, but it's kind of up to you why. Like, I don't think it has to be that you're horrible, visually hideous. I think it can be things like behaving really unsettlingly or having a very offensive smell or something like that. I could be completely wrong there. It might even be a different edition of Vampire that I'm picking that up from, but that's the sense I get.
But also, if you do insist on spending all of your time in the sewers, you're going to smell.
You're going to pick up smells. I think we had a thing there. Oscar, the terrifying librarian, Kane. Yes. Terrifying. People are scary when they're full of bullet holes. Scariest history teacher I've ever seen. Yeah. You didn't have mine. That's all I'm saying.
There was also a great other nickname of Oscar Bullet Through the Neck Kane. Which, there we go.
There we go.
That's my favorite, I think.
There we go.
I love all these nicknames. They're also like complimentary of my incredible talents.
Oscar is a combat monster, and by that we mean he's a monster in combat who can't do anything about it. Any werewolves in London? Well, that's a difficult thing to answer because according to it depends. Do you mean the canon or do you mean in my version of the London? I mean, the answer in both is yes. But if you're interested, Fall of London has some very loose information about the werewolf presence in London. But as so far in V5, I mean, we're yet to have werewolf V5, so it'll be interesting to see what that does. But yes, there are werewolves in London. Hopefully, you're not going to meet them. Neill has corrected me. I'm completely wrong. In V5, it has to be looks.
You're being rated.
It's based on the floor. Yeah. I think I'd let. I think if someone really wanted it, it's easily homebrewed, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
it's not
just
the kind
use
of
the
thing
same
that
rules.
you could never do this. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's easily done. Just got raided. Ooh, who raided us? Do tell.
Housebroken Geek.
Housebroken Geek.
Good?
Yeah. It means all of their viewers suddenly poured into us. Approximately 60 seconds from ending the stream. But welcome. We do tabletop role playing. We're called Telling Tales. Hello, you're lovely. Why not subscribe?
Hello.
Hello. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow for Symbaroum. We'll see you next week for more Vampire V5. Have a lovely time and stay safe out there. And see you soon. Goodbye. Goodbye.